From the Mapleview Animal Hospital studios, this is the WHTC Morning News with Gary Stevens and Peg McNichol on 99.7, 1450 WHTC and WHTC.com.
And we welcome you back to the WHTC Morning News for this Tuesday, January 5th. Tuesday mornings, at this time, we normally have a chance to chat with one of the two men who represent the Lakeshore in the halls of Congress, Fred Upton. On Sunday, sworn in for, is it now 20 terms in the U.S.?
No.
Or is it 19?
Turn my air gray. No, it's my 18th term. I was elected in 86.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because after a while, and I was not here when you first got elected, you lose track. I mean, it's getting to be tougher now because Bill Heisinger just was sworn in for his 6th two-year term. So, and that was a little bone of contention a few years ago when Pete Hoekstra decided to run for a 7th two-year term, when he said, "I'm only going to run for 6," and that's caused all sorts of problems for Pete. But indeed, you are now sworn in, and the new session of Congress, 117th, gets underway a little bit with some fireworks tomorrow. Your thoughts about having to make a decision and cast a vote on the Electoral College?
Well, as Peg just indicated in her news, I sent out a statement yesterday. I do believe that the voters have decided where things are going to go. I don't think it should be overturned by judges or politicians. We all know exactly what the result is going to be when these states are challenged, and that'll happen as it does every 4 years. It's in the Constitution. They actually, so the House and Senate both certify the state's results. No one questions whether or not the votes are there to certify every one of the 50 states. Yes, there's about a dozen senators or so that are going to object to it, but you know what? There's 88 other senators. It's got to have a majority vote in both sides. So somehow that number has got to go from 88 to under 50. That's just not going to happen. In the House, obviously controlled by the Democrats, not a single Democrat is going to vote to overturn the certification of any of the states. And certainly there are many, many Republicans that will be also aligned with what the states have decided. So we know what the result's going to be. Every state has their own rules for voting. And I've been one, and we actually had legislation last year to try and federalize elections. I voted against it. It's against the Constitution. The Trump administration actually sent out a statement, a veto statement. If that bill had moved to the president's desk, he was going to veto it. But down in the South, and we're seeing this today, down in Georgia, they have a runoff election. If you don't get 50%, you have a runoff, which is what today is. We don't have a runoff here. That's their law. State of Oregon, 100% of the folks in Oregon for the last decades have voted 100% by mail. They don't have, that's what they've decided to do. Our voters here in Michigan, they voted to change the rules for absentee voting. No reason. And I got to say, I stopped at my city hall last week. It's still closed because of COVID. That's my normal polling place. But sure enough, there in front was a place where you could drop off your tax payment or your water bill, or yes, even your absentee ballot back in October, which is exactly what I did. It's matched by signatures. Some states send out ballots to everybody, not us. We send out, or we have an application first that's certified by the local clerk as to your matching your signature before they send out the ballot. You then sign the ballot, it comes back in. And unlike days of, a couple decades ago with, you remember the big mess we had with Chads, was the hole punched through or not? No, we have our ballots are machine read, filled in a circle. The ballot is kept. The paper ballot is retained, doesn't go to the ether, doesn't go to the cloud. It's there. All 83 counties, every one of our clerks certified that the count was accurate. And the difference is 154,000 more votes for Biden than for Trump. Seems pretty simple math. And for those that want to have an audit or delay this thing, lots of constitutional questions as it relates to that. I took an oath on Sunday for the Constitution. That's really a lot what this vote is come tomorrow.
Yeah, it's been 20 years since we had the Chad issue, so it has been a while.
That was mainly was Florida, but we had them once. We had Chads back in the 90s, and we changed the system so you either fill in the circle, you extend the line, whatever it is, if you vote absentee. And again, I voted absentee in November. So did my wife. So did my parents. So did my brother. Lots of people. COVID is still here.
All right. Those who would say support President Trump, you're a Republican, support President Trump. You know what, or high water. Sometimes you have to say, hey, no, I can't support him on this. Or you say, hey, he's got a point about trying to contest.
Well, you know what? The Constitution comes first. At the end of the day, we've had a long tradition of when administrations change that it's been peaceful. I hope that that's how this one transitions. But the voters spoke. 200, the rules of the game are you get 270 electoral votes. Biden had, I think, 306. It's not going to get reversed. There's no way House and Senate members are going to reverse any of the states, let alone 50-some votes to change the outcome prior to January 20th. It's just not going to happen.
We're talking with Congressman Fred Upton on WHTC's Morning News. Many of us got a bulge in the bank account yesterday. 600, or in our case, 1,200, because Holly and I. The bulge in the bank account came because the stimulus package was signed since the last time we chatted, Fred. But an opportunity to try to get more on the board was nixed at the last moment by the Senate. Might be on the agenda once Congress really gets going in the month of January. Do you see another round of stimulus coming forward, or what?
Well, I think here's what I think will happen. And I supported an increase to 2,000. So did President Trump, by the way. We passed it in the House. And, I think 44 Republicans joined with virtually all the Democrats, not quite all. And of course, it was a hot potato that the Senate decided not to even have a vote on. We're going to have a new administration. We got a new Congress. We haven't even formed the committees yet. I do expect that we'll have another COVID rescue package within a couple of months. It's going to take a little time, but I think we'll take, we'll see the snapshot of where the economy is. What's the unemployment levels? How can we help our hospitals survive this? And, I saw some of the national news now. I guess ambulances in California are saying if there's not a chance, don't even bring folks to the hospitals. They're out of oxygen and oxygen tanks. Who knows how this tragedy is going to continue to expand. But at the end of the day, when we do another package, whether it's helping our small businesses or our hospitals, our schools, our local units of government, I think we'll see exactly where things are, take a snapshot then. So we're looking at end of February, sometime in March, all likelihood, see if there's bipartisan support for this. And remember, even though we're going to have a Democratic president and obviously still a House, don't know what's going to happen in the Senate, it's closely divided. And more so than ever before. So you got to work together to get things done. And that's what our Problem Solvers Caucus did, of course, to get this package. This is the package that we've worked on since July. And a lot of folks higher up than us kept changing the goalposts. Pelosi passed the package that I voted against a couple of times, over $3 trillion. We said, that's not going to go. It's got to fit within a different framework, let alone the president never would have, I don't think, would have ever signed a package like that. But we actually have a meeting this morning, our Problem Solvers Caucus. We've expanded our group, by the way, and we'll have some Michigan announcement, I think, in the next few days formally. But whereas we were 50 members before, we'll be pretty close to 60. And when you take an even smaller difference between who's in control in the House, and we also established some great connections and partnerships with the Senate to get this COVID package done. Our baseball bat's a little bit bigger.
Listener question: is the SAFE Act or a version thereof on your agenda for this session?
Well, I'd like to think that we're going to get a lot of things done. that's an agenda item that we need to take a look at. I think, we need an infrastructure bill with our highways. I talked to a number of different community leaders yesterday. I think earmarks are going to come back. So there'll be as there should be, there'll be a litmus test. So you don't parachute things in like the bridge to nowhere and things like that. So yeah, I think the SAFE Act will be there, but I gotta say it's so different today in legislating than it was 3, 4, 5 years ago. It takes an hour to vote. One of the members told me yesterday, how are we going to get to know the freshmen? They're not in our building. Remember, there's 3. They're not in our building if you've been here after a couple of terms. They're not on our, A committees like IM Energy and Commerce. You don't walk them back and forth. You don't see them on the House floor because we're socially distanced, and we go home every week. So it is different. You don't have the hearings. You don't have the camaraderie. You don't get to know people, not only in your own party, let alone the other party. And we've got obviously a lot of new faces. So, there's we got to get this COVID thing behind us. Great news, Pfizer and Moderna in terms of what they did in getting a vaccine. Now we got to work with the states. Why can't we get people more shots? Only about, I guess, the numbers show maybe only a third of the states that have vaccines. They all do, but they've only used about a third of the inventory after a month. That's got to change. Yeah, we got to get this thing out, particularly as you see these alarming numbers, these hotspots, states that are in trouble, let alone our healthcare workers, seniors, others that rightly so are at the top of the list in terms of trying to get that vaccination.
One final question, Fred. I might be a little bit early to ask this, but I'll ask it anyway. The incoming president, of course, is former vice president, longtime senator from state of Delaware. His vice president, longtime senator from the state of California. So they're not totally new to Washington. But as you see what their platform was in the campaign and what they're standing for now, what would be the 2 things that you would have to say, I'm not on their boat on all? What would be the top 2 things that you would say you disagree with the incoming Biden administration coming into this 117th session of Congress?
Well, I don't know of course, we don't know exactly what his agenda is going to be yet. This Georgia election today is pretty serious and will dictate who are the chairmen or chairwomen of the committees in the Senate. So but at the end of the day, to get anything done, you got to work with both sides of the aisle. They've got to have outreach. They have to develop relationships. At this point, I've not heard from anyone in the new administration that's coming in. They got a lot of work to do. That's for sure. COVID is the number one issue. Not only the distribution, but we've got some other big issues like, the highway bill, protection of the Great Lakes. Lots of things that are going on. I think I'm going to be, again, the committees haven't formed yet, but I'm likely to be the top Republican on the energy subcommittee. And so we got lots of issues. We got to work together. And I'm sure that I'll have plenty of objections with the new administration that they come in, and we'll go toe to toe on some issues. And there's some issues that we'll be supportive. But at the end of the day, nothing happens without bipartisan cooperation.
He is Congressman Fred Upton, who joins us.
But the Green New Deal is not coming. Let me just tell you that. Even he said that during the debates.
Yeah, I think so too. Congressman Fred Upton joins us every Tuesday morning to talk a little bit about what's going on in Washington. Fred, thank you very much for your time this morning. And if all goes well, let's do this again next Tuesday morning, shall we?
Great. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Fred Upton, on Real News Now, 99.7 and 1450 WHTC.